Okay, good morning. Last class we were discussing about the warehousing concepts. So we'll continue with some of the important points because I went into their syllabus yesterday night. They've asked us to cover a little bit in depth about warehousing. So yesterday we just studied about the basic concept of warehouse and who are the parties who are involved in the warehouse. And what are the title documents? Basically, warehouse receipt. That is the title documents which are used as a receipt or as an acknowledgement or as a title for commodity, whatever you have stored in the warehouse. So, having said so, to just recap whatever we have studied yesterday, the process of warehouse receipt is a very important thing which you need to understand. And remember one thing, warehouses, there are a lot of warehouses which are there. We'll come back to that. Private, public, and all those warehouses are there. Types of warehouses are there. But remember one thing, we are talking about warehouses which are especially recognized by the commodity exchanges. Okay, so we are not talking about warehouses in general here. We are only restricting ourselves to warehouses which are recognized by the commodity exchanges for dealing with commodity related transactions. So we are concerned about only such warehouses or only those warehouses. So coming back to the concepts, one very important concept in warehouse is warehouse receipt. So just to recap the process, how it works. The farmers normally who are growers of agriculture produce, right? So they approach this warehouse and they deposit commodities there. Okay, and the commodities are deposited. And once the commodities are deposited by the farmers, what the warehouses people will do, they won't accept it as and like when the farmer brings the commodity. So there are some people called as assayings. Yesterday, I think we discussed about assaying, role of assayings and all. So they are the people who will be inspecting the produce. They will be the people who will be checking for the quality, grading, and all those things. And once they are done with, and once they show that yes, this is the right type of product, and what is the grade it needs to be, and where it should be kept and in the warehouse. So according to the instruction, then the commodity identification number is given. So once that identification number is given, the warehouse receipts is generated, and that warehouse receipt is given to farmer as an acknowledgement. So for whatever the produce he has deposited or which he has kept in the warehouse. So that is the acknowledgement which gives the detail of warehouse receipt, gives the detail of number of units, the quality, the grading, the commodity identification number, and with all the other information relating to that product, and when it was stored and what is the validity of that particular commodity which needs to be kept. All those information will be given in the warehouse receipt. So warehouse receipt is taken by farmer, and farmer can use it in for getting loans also. So he can pledge that, or he can keep that as a security, and he can take loans or further financial things for his farming activities. So it can act as a collateral thing also. So farmer has dual benefit. So he can hedge. First of all, he can hedge for the produce whatever he has grown. Second thing is he can take loan, away loans by keeping that particular produce in that particular warehouse. So that is the concept of warehouse receipt. Okay, so I think now we are comfortable with what is warehouse receipt. So the next thing what we need to study is what are the essentials of a good storage system? Because since we are the commodity exchanges are very much particular about having a proper storage facilities and also keeping the commodities in the warehouse, they're also very interested to know how the warehouse authorities are maintaining the storage facilities. So it's a very important thing. So a lot of points are required to be understood here. So let me elaborate those points one by one. So what is the essential of good storage? First and foremost, essential is it should be clean and it should be clean. That means the surrounding or the environment under which the warehouse operates, right, whether external or as well as internal, it should be very clean. One second. So cleanliness is very important because most of the agriculture produce are perishable items. So they are very sensitive to any what do you call infection type of thing or degradable. There are a lot of degradable things which happens if it gets contact with some insects or rodents or even the environmental thing also. So the place should be kept very clean and it should be easily accessible also. That's what it means. The first point is wherever the warehouse is located or wherever the storage facilities you are setting up, right, that should be maintained clean. Cleanliness should be there. The second one, it should have protected from rodents, birds, and other animals. So yes, of course, sufficient measures should be taken to protect the storage from rodents entering into it or birds entering into it and destroying the produce and all those things. So that is the second thing. And the third one, it should be waterproof and moisture proof, especially in case of storing of paddy and all this ragi, paddy and all these things, right? It's very important that moisture level and also the waterproof should be there for the entire building, so that the water doesn't seep into that particular bags or it destroys them or all those things. So the third important point is waterproof and moisture proof should be there in that particular storage. And the fourth one is it should protect the food grains against variation of temperature and humidity. Of course, the humidity and temperature are very important, especially when you are keeping some vegetables and some produce which is to be traded, right? Especially the oil seeds and all those things. They are subject to prone to some temperatural variations. So humidity and temperature and moisture level, everything needs to be controlled. So that point should be taken care of. That means scientifically it should be you need to know what to be stored at which place. So basically that is a very important thing which needs to be done. So that requires a lot of little bit of understanding about the produce and little bit of understanding about the environmental thing and little bit understanding about how that product reacts to different time and temperature and humidity. So that is one thing. Then fifth one is it should have a provision for periodical inspection. This is again a very important thing. We need to make sure that the produce are available for periodic inspection. So a person should go inspect it, take some sample out of it, or draw some sample out of that particular produce, and it should be arranged in such a way that you can go and easily do the inspection. So it should not be something where it cannot, it should be kept where you cannot go and reach it, or where it cannot be accessible, or whether you cannot do any testing on that. Like that, it should not be. So it should be subject to availability in periodical inspection. So whenever the produce is stored and wherever you are keeping, right, it should be subject for inspection purposes. That is one thing. Then 6.8, it should be have provision for application of pesticides to spraying or fumigation. Fumigation means basically to get rid of fungus type of infection and all. So normally when you are keeping a lot of food produce under certain specific condition, right, there are chances that a fungus may develop in such type of storage capacities. So time to time cleaning and time to time spraying of pesticides and spraying of anti-fungus things, and all these things needs to be done. So basically it's keeping that particular environment in a very good condition. Then it should be located far away from possible sources of infection, such as flour mills, bone crushing mills, garbage pumps, tunnels, slaughterhouses, and chemical industries. So this is also very important. The surrounding is also very important, where that particular storage is located. So it should be free from all environmental related pollutions like water pollution or air pollution, or such type of industrial unit should not be located closely to this warehouse or godown, because infections may catch up. So in order to see that, even the location or what should be located within the specified area from the warehouse, all those things needs to be inspected. That means we need to set up a warehouse at such location which is having very good environment or very good ambience, with not closely located near some industry or some flour mill or slaughterhouse, all those things, because it may lead for some type of infections or some type of dust coming out, emanating from industry. All those things may be even absorbed this warehouse. So that's what the point they want to make it clear here. So it should be located in an appropriate place. Then it should be located at a convenient place from where it is easy to receive, issue, and transport the food grains. So many times this is a biggest issue. We see that the proximity of the transport facilities may not be available. So this was an issue with the Tumkur-based food processing units. So they faced this issue. Actually, food processing units were started in Tumkur, near Tumkur, not in Tumkur, near Tumkur. But the place they choose was not having a very proper connectivity for rail and airways. So that was one of the reason why actually that project could not take up in the level at which they expected. So it was a wrong selection of site actually. So even though they selected near the highway, but the place where they selected was not having proper connectivity to some of the districts and also to some of the main transport related activities like railways and airports. So that because of that, that cold storage facilities which are set up with huge cost, right, could not succeed and at the level at what they expected at. So location is very important, and proximity of transportation facilities are also important. And the conveyance part, that is movement from storage area to the transport areas, and from transport to again storage area, that should be, proximity should be there, wherein ample opportunity should be there in such places where the road connectivity or the electricity or the other infrastructure facility should be given, and at a proper level, so that the storage doesn't have too much impact on the markets. So that is very important, and that is those are the things which needs to be kept in mind. Next, let us go to the warehouse and storage facilities in India. So how this storage and this warehouse facilities are done in India. So there are three important public sectors involved in building large scale. So these are very important storage facilities which are there in India. So three public companies are there which are mainly catering to this warehousing facilities, and also a lot of private also is there now because of the government pushing for more and more need or requirement for this food. That's how after this post-COVID, right? Even in this term of COVID, whatever we are facing this issue now, we see that there is no shortage of food grains. Okay, so people are not starving here. Okay, there is nothing like people are starving for food or something like that. So we have enough stock of food grains. Okay, so that is because of the government initiative for not only encouraging production of food grains but also storage of food grains. So due to this, today we have enough buffer of food grains with us, which can last for next 4 to 5 months. So India is very self-sufficient with food grains. So there is nothing called as starvation which will be there, even though the lockdown continues for next 3 months or 3 to 4 months, right? So till that time also, there is nothing to worry about the hunger part. So there will be no scarcity of food available in India, especially the pulses or the food grains, which are very important and necessary for lower strata people and also the middle class people. So there is sufficient amount of food grains which have been stored, especially the Rabi thing which was there. So sufficient food grains are already available. Buffer stock is there. So they are moving it to northeast and all those things, right? They are moving 3 lakh metric tons. Last 2 days back, they moved that. We have self-sufficiency. Why this self-sufficiency has come? Because of warehousing facilities. So we have developed a lot of warehousing facilities, and a lot of good things have come up. but we will not be focusing more on the general aspects. We will be focusing more on those which are related to commodity markets. Okay, so even though the food security is there, the food market is good, the production is, agriculture production has exceeded the targets, and also the storage of food grains has exceeded the limits what it was expected, and we are comfortably placed today, okay, in terms of storage and also the distribution of food grains are concerned. So there are three important public sector warehouse facilities or warehouse and storage facilities in India. The first one is, of course, Food Corporation of India, FCI. So one thing about FCI is, I'll come back to that FCI in detail. But one thing what you need to know about FCI is FCI deals with only agriculture produce. Okay, they don't deal with any other commodities. That's very important. So when we talk about Food Corporation of India warehouse or the storage facility under FCI concentrates only on agriculture-related produce only. So there are no other commodities which will come under this FCI. So when we talk about FCI, we are talking about only agriculture-related produce. But the other two, that is Central Warehouse Corporation, is there. CWC, it's called as CWC, Central Warehouse Corporation, and this is a corporation which will not only cater to storage of agriculture but also other commodities also. So very important, CWC is there. And of course there is one more thing called as the external state warehouse corporations. Okay, state warehouse corporations are those which have been run by state. So CWC and FCI, they are coming under central government, and there are 17 state warehouse corporations across India. So these numbers are going up every year because each and every states have now realized the importance and needs of this having warehouse facility in their respective states and at the district level also. So now they are concentrating, even other states are also trying to increase their numbers, okay, by constituting under the state the storage capacity level of warehouses. So so the three important things: one is Food Corporation of India, second one is Central Warehouse Corporation, CWC, and the third one is State Warehouse Corporations of India, State Warehouse Corporations. So these are the three main warehouses which are there. Apart from this, there are a lot of private warehouses and all those things, okay. So let us study in deep depth about all these things. So then what is the uses of warehouse? So we have studied so many things about warehouse and all those things. Let us also focus something on what are the uses of warehouse. So what are the warehouse? First one, scientific storage of produce from vagaries of weather, rodents, insects, pests, and all these things. So basically to prevent the quality and the quantity loss. That is a very important thing. So make it very simple. The warehouse, the purpose of or uses of warehouse is to first one, to just protect the quality or prevent the quality and quantity loss. Quantity loss also is important compared to quality also. So both go hand in hand. So the first important use is to prevent. The ultimate objective of warehouse is to make sure that the proper environment is maintained in the storage facilities, so that we prevent the loss which may occur if we don't take proper steps in order to look into the quality and quantity of the produce which are stored in that particular warehouse. That is the first point. Second important point is meeting the financial needs of the people who store the produce by providing value for the goods stored. So this is also a very important thing, because we talked about warehouse receipt, right? It can be used as an instrument for taking loans or taking financial help from other sources, institutions. So that is one of the important things. So if that farmer grows and keeps in his own house, he will not get any financial benefits for that. So if he stores it in his own place or own house or in own farm or wherever it is in a private way, then he will not be able to get the loan for such type of produce, even though the asset is there with him or stock is there with him. But if the same thing is kept in a warehouse recognized by the authorities, then definitely he can use it for funding purposes, or he can take loan on that, which he can use it for repayment of his debts, or again going for second level of cultivations, or bringing some mechanization, something like that. He can use that particular funds for that. So that is one of the thing. Meet the financial needs is the second important point. And the third one, regulating price levels by regulating the supply of goods in the market. So this is a very important thing what the government looks at always. So if the government doesn't do this, then hoarder starts hoarding these things, and that creates a temporary. They start creating temporary demand, and by increasing the price supply. So this is how most of the times it happens, especially in terms of onion prices and all those things. You know what happened 2-3 months back. So the ultimately what government tries to do is they will try to bring this price level under a controllable limit. So how do they do it? So through warehouse, they start monitoring the supply. So looking at the demand in the market, they will be start releasing that thing which is there in the warehouse. So the supply and demand is one of the important constraints for the pricing of the produce. So produce prices are fixed based on the availability of the thing in the godown or in the storehouse. So it acts as a mechanism for regulating the prices. That's a very important thing. Uh, so based on now whatever the emergency is there. So now if you see also, there is no gradual increase in price, even though we are into lockdown almost 1.5 months now. Still the prices of essential commodities have not gone up. So what could be the reason? The reason is that government has stored, and government is controlling these prices through fair price shops and all those things. So they are trying to meet the supply and demand in such a way that the price doesn't go exorbitantly high. If that control was not established, right, then by this time the price could have gone up. Okay, so the very important thing what the government has done is to bring down the price, stabilize the price through regulation of supply. So that is possible only if you are operating through a very well network of warehouse or storage facilities. Then offering market intelligence in the form of price, supply, and demand information. This is very important. See, today information of price is required not only for the market but for all various agencies, especially when we talk about the economic scenario, right? When we talk about the inflation, and the inflation again is rooted back to your monetary policies and all those things. So there is a wide lot number of experts or people will be looking at this information, and this gives the market sentiment and intelligence, and this can be shared with the various analysis and various ways of tooling and all those things. So one important thing about this warehouse is it probably fetches a lot of information, especially relating to supply, the mood of the customers, the demand situation, the price level, and the availability of stock, and the position where the country is heading towards. So this acts as a very important policy making or decision making tool to the various authorities, like the government, especially in different ministries which are involved in this, like agriculture ministry, ministry of finance, and all those things. And for policy making bodies like Reserve Bank of India and other monitoring agencies. So for them overall, it's information is very important. So because ultimately whatever you do, it is drilling down to the common man. So whatever the policy or whatever the decision points you raise at the top level, right, it gets drilled down in one or the other way to the common man. So it is at the end of the day, it's a common man who is supposed to react for all these things. So this data is also very important. It acts as one of the important information in terms of market intelligence and all those things. So where the government can use it for different purposes. So that is these are the uses of warehouse what we can think of. Then Food Corporation of India is the largest agriculture warehousing system with over around 24.33 million tons of storage capacity, of over 1,451 godowns located all over India. So they have around 1,451 godowns which are located all over India. Just 1 second, okay? There is an important call. I'll just take that call. 1 second.
Okay, sorry for the disturbance. There was an important call from GM. Okay, I just took that call. Okay, so FCI, Food Corporation of India, is one of the biggest organization and the oldest organization also. And as I told you, it's only catering to the needs of agriculture produce. Okay, so the second one is CWC, that is Central Warehouse Corporation. It was founded in 1957. Okay, and to provide logistic support to the agriculture sector. So the ultimate objective was to provide logistic thing, but now they are catering even to the storage part also. And it operates around 514 warehouses across the country with a storage capacity of 10.27 million tons. So FCI is about 24.33 million tons. Okay, but CWC is only 10.27 million tons. That is only 50% of FCI capacity is what the CWC is operating at. And other than storage and handling, CWC also offers services such as disinfestation, pest control, fumigation, clearing and forwarding, handling and transportation, procurement and distribution. See, they do n number of functions. Okay, even creating awareness, conducting various programs, educating farmers. So they do a lot of things. So CWC is one of the organization which is working across India in various ways. It is not only helping in storage and logistic movement of warehousing, but it is doing all the value-added services which are required for promoting or pushing the warehouse facilities across the India. Then state warehouse corporations, we already told that 17 state warehouse corporations are there in India, and they provide storage facilities and pest control services for various agriculture commodities belonging to farmers of the state. So their job is only restricted to the particular state, and they operate within the jurisdiction of that particular state. And they are controlled by the various acts. We'll come back to what are the various authorities which are there. And I'll just go to the details of what are the various things which are there. Okay. Please get into the details of all these things. Okay, I'll share you the links. You can go back to Food Corporation of India website and you can see all this information. Okay, so I'll not get into too much of what is this role of Food Corporation of India and all those things. I'll just touch upon the higher level of this FCI and all. The details can be obtained from website. If you go to FCI website, right, you get all the information about Food Corporation of India. You may get questions on this. Okay, comment on the role of FCI and CWC and State Warehouse Corporation and all those things. So be a little bit prepared with this respective website. You can go and you can just look into the details for all those things. Then what are the key challenges or key risk areas which are there in in the warehouse or storage? When you are storing or warehousing in the warehouse, what are the key challenges you face, or what are the key risk areas you face? The first one is protecting ownership rights. So that is a major problem. It is inevitable in most of the warehousing here. So ascertaining at the ownership level, because most of the people who will be dealing with the warehouse are farmers. So the lack of knowledge or the lack of understanding and the lack of proving the prudent ownership, right? We can call it as prudent ownership. That becomes very difficult. So that is the one big challenges which are there, or key risk factor which is there to identify who is the actual owner. So many times it happens there are a lot of middlemen or a lot of intermediaries who will be working with the farmers. So in the name of farmers, those people who are farmers grows all these things, but someone wants to take advantages of all these things, and they will be coming and representing the farmers in getting this produce stored and all those things. So always, most of the time, we have the problem with the farmers. Okay, so the actual person who deposits and the actual person who has grown that produce, right? They may be two different persons. So this is always a problem, but thanks to a lot of new initiatives launched by the government, especially like Kisan cards or Kisan identity card numbers, or even the soil card, soil card distribution to farmers, and Jan Dhan account. See, these are all the things which has changed the
the way the farming is done today. So now at least there is a identity thing which can be linked to that particular farmers. So today there are a lot of ways where they can inspect and see this type of risk can be avoided. So especially protecting the ownership rights we are talking about. So government is taking a lot of steps in order to identify the right farmer so that the benefit reaches to the right farmer at right time. So these things, there are a lot of documents available now. ID cards are there which are available with different agencies, even with financial agencies, monetary bodies, all those things. They can get the documents, and that is getting linked. Even the land records, all those things are getting linked. So today there is every chance to find out who the exact farmer is, and whether that person who has produced that has been properly identified at the time of taking the produce on giving the warehouse receipt to him. So yes, now steps have been taken, but still there are many states and union territories where things needs to be implemented. Okay, there are a lot of in still rural areas where the schemes have not gone or reached, or even though it's reached, they are not educating the people to understand what the schemes are. So yes, that constraints are there. So once, but we have made a very good progress in order to address those things. That's what I wanted to make a point here. The second point is co-mingling. So co-mingling is where one farmer or one trader in that particular produce get mingled with another trader or mingled to in order to take over the advantages of cost and space. So there are a lot of times the produce are co-mingled. That is, 2 to 3 farmers come together and they want to keep that in one particular storage under one name. So there are chances that there may be a little bit of differences between these 2 farmers, and this may result in even the problem with the storage activities also. So this since lack of knowledge, or even if you want to say, in order to avoid this cost, because storing involves a lot of cost, warehouse cost is to be borne by farmers. So in order to save this cost, or in order to get themselves minimization of cost of keeping that particular produce in the warehouse, 2-3 people or farmers can come together and form an joint agreement, and they may try to keep whatever the produce is there under one single name. So there is always, if there is some fight between these 2 farmers, or there is some misunderstanding between these farmers, right, then that will have an impact on the storage also. So that is one of the risks which has been faced by many of the warehousing, because again they don't understand the actual why this warehousing facility needs to be done and what are the importance and significance of that. So there is some lack of the proper understanding of this warehouse with the farmers, and to certain extent, in order to just save cost or the space, these people get into this type of informal agreements, we can call it as, and without the knowledge of warehouse, they do all these things. So warehouse authority should be very careful when they are issuing the warehouse receipt and all. They need to do a proper check on all these things. But sometimes this happens. Okay, it happens in most of the areas, especially in states like Bihar or Jharkhand, or where there are a lot of still the awareness has not gone and reached in remote places, right? Still we find such type of conflicts between the mingling of farmers and all those things. So that is one of the key challenges again, or key risk areas we can call it as. And the next one is insurance. Of course, the insurance is one of the important thing. Many of the times, the relevance and importance of insurance is not understood by the farmers. Okay, so most of the time they don't disclose the material facts. So insurance is subject to disclosure of proper things. So it's same with life insurance also, right? So when you are taking a policy, you need to disclose everything, or else there will be some condition which will be written in small letters which you cannot see through normal eye, and there they would have put some condition which may tomorrow be very adverse to you whenever you face a risk. So it's better to disclose everything, but our farmer communities, most of the time we see that they don't disclose the facts properly, material facts. That may be with intention or without intention also, without knowledge also. But most of the time people will be knowing. Unless you ask them, they won't tell, or you probe them, then only they will relieve. Okay, so this is there in all aspects. I think most of us, most of you agree with me that they are not transparent in their approach. So most of the times we find these issues. So insurance is one thing where if you don't disclose the material facts, and if you don't revive the insurance policy after it's expired, or if you don't go for revision of the sum assured and all those things, you will be at the riskiest end. So tomorrow, if anything happens, then it will be a problem for you. So that is one of the key risk factor which is there when the storage of is concerned. Then financing. Loans, see, one thing, loan which is given as security, then that entire farm produce is kept as security. Okay, so unless you clear that loan, you cannot take the possession of that. So that is one more thing. So till the time you clear that loan, that particular stock will be kept as security. And there are chances that if you become defaulter in clearing the loan, then that particular produce may be taken as an alternative for realizing your loan amount. So yeah, since there is a validity period which is running on your stock, whichever is there, so there is always key challenges that the funds which you take, if it doesn't get cleared within the time limit which is there, then it may go for again risk for warehousing people to go for auctioning and all those things, disbursing that. And at that point of time, we don't know whether it fetches the same price at what the term you are given the loan and all those things. So that risk is always there. That is one more risk, key risk areas which is there in storing and warehousing. The next one is warehouse documents. Documents, again, whatever the documents you are producing, right? Sometimes that may not be the factuals or actuals one. There may be some misrepresentation of some things, or especially in the records, right? Sometimes it happens if you don't look into the mutation records or family tree, all those things. Tomorrow someone may come and file a case that this guy has illegally taken the land and he has grown the thing, and that land belongs to us and all. See, these type of complication in village we keep seeing. Okay, so land records are one important thing which cannot be trusted. So most of the time it happens in villages that due to the proper records which are not ascertainable or which cannot be traced, and the person who is actually holding the land and the person who is actually doing the cultivation on the land, right, there are two different persons. So in relatives itself, if there is a land which has been distributed between 2-3 brothers, and one of the brother has sold and the other brothers are keeping that, so still that the owner of the land who has purchased that land may not be aware of who is the people who are again cultivating on their land. So many times we see that people going and cultivating in forest land, and people are going and cultivating in Gomala lands and all those things, even though it doesn't belong to them, but still they raise produce there, and it's not correct to do that. Forest land encroaching that and all, they do it. Okay, so the documents are very important. So documents, whatever they have given, and based on which you have started accessing everything, right, that cannot be the proper legal documents. So there is always a chances that the things may not work legally there. So warehouse documents are one more thing which cannot be trusted, and there are chances of misrepresentations which can happen through that documents. And legal risk management, it's very highly difficult for convincing these people, especially in terms of legal aspects, because you cannot educate the people from scratch to gain entire knowledge, because at least you should have some basic knowledge. So it becomes very difficult to educate the farmers, especially in terms of rules, regulations, and various acts, provisions in that, and all those things when you are taking that. So there is a huge risk of legal things, and any amendments or any new things which has been introduced by government. it becomes very difficult for taking that to the farmers and educating them. So there is always a legal risk which is there, and that needs to be addressed, and it takes a lot of time to get adjusted for those things. So these are some of the key risky areas which are there when we talk about storing and warehousing. Okay, then. So let us go to the types of warehouses now. So as I was telling, there are around 9 types of different warehouses which are there. So the first type is the private warehouse. Second one is the public warehouse. So public warehouse, I think we discussed already. Then automated warehouse. Automated warehouses are those warehouses which has been fully automated. That means the entire thing of loading, unloading, movement and storage and shifting, everything is automatically driven. So there is no manual intervention, or if manual intervention is also there, it will be only limited. So the machine takes the control of everything. So if you go to Amazon warehousing and all those things, right, there the drone controls everything. So drone is used for controlling even the selection and unloading it, loading it, or shifting it. So everything is done through technology there. So that is called as automated warehouse. So everything is automated. So right from you moving the bin from input stage, from your unloading from your lorry and moving that particular produce into that particular racks or sections or whatever you call it as. So everything it is done by computerized systems. So it is called as automated warehouses. Then climate control warehouses. Climate control warehouses are those warehouses which has sufficient environmental related things. Okay, that it can adjust its own temperature. So depending upon whether its humidity is there outside or whether it's very hot or very cold, accordingly the warehouse adjusts its temperature to which it is set. So especially when we are keeping produce which are prone to changes in climate, right? So which may get impacted because of climate change. Then there is a auto thing like how the refrigerator system works. Okay, so auto refrigeration it works, right? So when the temperature increases or when the temperature outside decreases, accordingly the thermostat works, right? Similarly, these warehouses have also been upgraded with high technology, wherein it gets adjusted to the temperature and humidity, whatever it's prevailing in the environment. So this is called as climate control warehouses. So we are finding shortage of these type of things in India. So we need to upgrade our facilities, especially warehouse facilities. We have only limited such type of warehouses in India. So we need to upgrade our warehouses across India with these type of technology related warehouses. So distribution centers. So the main aim of distribution centers are these are the warehouses which only cater to the distribution activities. So they are the people who store it for distribution purpose. So they don't store it as a warehouse or a storage units, but whenever the distribution should happen, the goods, the produce are moved to this distribution unit, and from there they start moving it to other areas. That is called as distribution warehouse. Then bonded warehouse. Bonded warehouse, normally bonded warehouse are the term which is used in customs. So especially when you are importing some of the materials from outside India, so by paying customs duty you import that, right? They move that goods first to the first to this bonded warehouse. So normally this bonded warehouse or bonded items, we call it as whatever moves into this bonded warehouse, right? They are called as bonded items. So the bonded items should be used only to the level at which the permission has been sought. So there are they explicitly mention the terms of usage of this particular items after it has been released from the warehouse. So once that period is over, you cannot again use it in your business, or you cannot sell it in the market also. The used product could not be sold in the market as second sales and all. You can't do it. So there is the market, the particular product should be either discarded or it should be destroyed. So you cannot put it in as a second-hand machines and you cannot sell it in market. Examples are computers. So bonded computers, when you are purchasing a computer for your office purposes, especially big software companies, they import computers, high-level computers from outside India, laptops, computers, all those things. So they come as a bonded item and they are bonded at the customs authority. Okay, when it reaches the custom, they pay the custom duty and it is getting bonded seal. So once that seal is there, let us say the life of laptop is 2.5 years. So you can use that particular laptop up to 2 years, in 2.5 years to 3 years in your business. And after 3 years, you are not supposed to sell that as second-hand machines in the market. You cannot do it. Either you need to destroy it or you need to give it to your employees free of cost. So it should not be used for furtherance of business in any other mode. So that is not allowed. That is called as bonded warehouse. So bonded warehouse is especially a warehouse which has been set up at port. Okay, at either at airport or at seaport or whatever it is. So the main role is, in order to receive all the imported goods, they keep this bonded warehouse, and you need to pay customs duty, and after the clearance of custom duty only, the bonded warehouse, they release the bonded items there. Okay, that is one thing. Next, special commodity warehouse, as the name itself tells, special commodities. So what are special commodities? So they have classified some of the important commodities which needs to be given special attention and to be kept in the particular warehouse, where you should not encourage any other produce or product to be stored in that particular warehouse. So examples are like cotton, or because cotton requires a specific type of environment and storage and some infrastructure, extra infrastructure, which you cannot keep other products also there. So cotton or tobacco, tobacco is also one of the important thing, because you cannot keep any other product along with tobacco. Similarly, wheat cannot be, you cannot store any other product along with wheat and all those things. So the special commodity warehouse is those which can store only the special commodity. They don't store any other commodity along with them. That is called a special commodity warehouse. Next, cold storage or refrigerator warehouse. So it's something same to your automated warehouse, but here it is mainly focusing on those commodities or those produce which requires special treatment, especially in terms of cold storage and all those things. So when you want to keep some produce which requires refrigeration, like apples, okay, all this thing, then you can keep it through the cold storage facilities. So they require some refrigeration also. Example, if you are keeping some of the produce like what do you call the butter and all those things, then you need to keep it in this refrigeration warehouse, or milk or something like that. So that is called as refrigerated warehouses. Then institutional warehouses, many times what happens, there are a lot of institutions like Food Corporation of India, or Reserve Bank, not Reserve Bank, any other financial institutions for matter, or railways. Railways have their own warehouses, and like this. Okay, so they have their own warehouse facility. Railway has its own, and even Food Corporation of India has its own warehouse like this. So they are called as institution. That means the institution runs the warehouse facilities. So that type of warehouse is called institutional warehouse. So this is about the warehouses, different types of warehouses in India. Of course, private warehouses are warehouses which are controlled by private authorities. Okay, that is what it means. So we have quite number of big warehouses which are located, and they have taken permission from NCDX or MCX or any other commodity exchanges. So many of them are operating even in private environment also. But the number of produce which are available in private is much smaller compared to what is available in the public, that is government, because normally private people charge huge maintenance cost. Okay, so in order to store and in order to maintain your produce, right, they charge exorbitant cost. So that may be the reason why most of the farmers doesn't prefer to go to private. They go to public or government, because they can access it very easily at a very nominal cost. So that is the reason why they go for storing it at public warehouses, that is government warehouses. So what are the general benefits of warehouse? So these are the few benefits. First one is regular production. So there is no need for you to worry about where to store after it grows, or you need not waste time. Okay, you did not waste time after producing, after only disposing it off or selling it off. Then you need to start again the second production because you don't have any place to store or any time to work on different production things. So that is not the case here. So since you know that there is a warehouse which can take care of all your produce, and that you can take your own time and then dispose it off whenever the market is good. So since you have that flexibility, whatever the produce you have grown, right, you can go and keep it in the warehouse, and happily you can again concentrate on production activities. So you will also get loan on that, and you can put it on still further production activity, and you can use that land, okay, and for multiple crops, and you can start growing because of that. So that is one of the biggest uses of warehousing. So you can go for regular production, so the production doesn't stop, because unless you sell this, you cannot go, unless you realize money on that, you cannot start production. That type of thing is not there now. So you concentrate on production. So once the production is done, go and keep it in the warehouse. So based on that warehouse receipt, you can go to approach any bank and take extra loan and concentrate again on further production. So no need to wait till the produce is sold, get back the money, and then put it on production. All those things, that is not required. So there is continuity in production. That is, regular production will be there. That is the first point of benefit from warehouse. Second one, time utility. So see, what is this time utility they are talking about? Normally what happens, there is a time gap between production and sale. So once you have produced something, and till it goes for consumption, there is a time gap. So you cannot expect whatever you grow today will be sold within one same day or within next day or whatever it is. So there is a time gap. So unless to minimize this time gap, or what you do, you keep this in a safe place called as warehouse. So there is this time utility, use of time is more here, because the 2 days wherever you are storing it, right, the 2 days can be again used for some productive activities, or for doing some other additional farming activities or whatever it is. So time utility is very one of the biggest advantages of keeping this produce in warehouse. The store of surplus goods, again, it becomes vital when you have got an excess yield from your farm. So what you will do with that, because your storage capacity is only limited. So let us say if you are holding your own storage facility, but you got a bumper crop. So what about that extra? What you will do with that extra? So whenever there is a bumper crop, definitely the demand will be less compared to the supply, because supply will be more, because excess bumper is there in all districts and all states of that particular country. So what happens? The demand falls. Demand falls means price also falls. So what you do? So you restrict yourself. You keep a sufficient number of that produce under your own zone, and the excess of whatever the surplus is there, you move it to the warehouse. So you can use it after sometimes when the market becomes normal. That means when you get at least demand for your product, you can just go and sell it in the market. So it acts as a what do you call catalyst, okay, in order to facilitate between demand and supply. So that's a very important role what the warehouses do. So it can store surplus goods. Then price stabilization. Of course, the demand and supply is what the price is talked about. So meeting the demand and supply is always the issues. So today we are seeing that, right? So still, since in spite of the everything, all economic activity coming to standstill, but food product prices are still manageable now. So prices is almost stabilized. Okay, it cannot go beyond the limit, and it has not gone beyond the limit also, if you see the recent agriculture prices. So that is one of the biggest advantage, because we have a storage capacity. So we have a very good network of storages, and we have very good facilities for storing this produce, and we can continue it for next 2-3 months. Means it's a great achievement what India has done over a period of time. So price stabilization can be achieved. And the next one is minimization of risk, because insurance is there and safety standards are there, and they take precaution relating to all pesticides, rodents, and all those things. Since warehouse authorities takes all preventive measures, there is minimization of risk when you keep the stock in warehouse. Then packing and grading, of course, this is a very important thing. So most of the farmers are growing produce, but they are not aware of how to market it. So once you go to this warehouses, right, these people try to grade your product based on which they keep storing, and they create awareness, or they create some type of knowledge in the minds of farmers to go for proper packing and grading. Because unless it is properly packed and graded, the warehouse doesn't accept it, because they may reject it and they may send it back to the farmer saying that your product doesn't meet our standards and all those things. So this encourages the farmers to go for well netted or well thought process of marketing also. And this is an indirect thing what the warehouses is pushing on the farmers to get aware of how the market works. Then last one, financing. Of course, that is the biggest advantages of going for warehouse, because whatever the warehouse produce are stored, right, you can take loan on that as a security. You can approach the financial institution and take the loan, and you can start the continuous production of your usage of land and start producing on that. So you can be engaged 365 days in a year if you have the proper awareness and knowledge about storage and all those things. So this is the uses of warehouse. So we'll stop today at this point. So next point, next again, there are a lot of things to be discussed. I will discuss something about CWC and all those things. So in the next class, I will be talking about CWC and all those things. So any questions for me? Any questions?